All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Roundtable. Today, we're welcoming Dima Foremnyi, 3x Capital. Dima, thank you so much for being here, joining us from Lisbon.
Thank you. Happy to be here, Zach.
Fantastic. I think we've
doing amazing. It's
got
a
just a
good
tiny bit of
sunny day. Yeah, I feel so. I feel it.
Absolutely. So you and I will kind of manage that. We'll do, but I'm sure you and I have done scores and scores of these types of calls. So bear with us to those listening. And again, thank you so much for being here and sharing your knowledge with us.
Sure. Thank you.
Dive in and start learning a little bit about your. Right now, you work with you're a partner with 3x Capital, which is a private equity firm that supports projects. I'd love if you could kind of share with how you came to be on the forefront of the world's newest and most impactful technologies.
Thank you for asking. It's been a journey of, I don't know, 10 or 15 years probably. And during that journey, I've had few hats. I wore a few hats. I would highlight three. So I started my career as a lawyer. Then I moved into entrepreneurship, and I was running a startup accelerator. I took a franchise of Dutch accelerator, and the last part, which is the current segue that I'm having in my life, is investment into startups with primary focus on Web3. So, I have this big three blocks of being a lawyer, running startups, accelerator, and then investing in startups. So that's three. I can focus on some specific parts depending on how you're gonna lead this conversation.
For sure. Thank you for sharing that with us. I would say, excuse me, which of those three things do you think has been most impactful towards guiding you into Web3?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I think it just happened gradually. So first, as a lawyer, I started.
There might be more of a delay here than I realized.
Yeah. The delay is like 10 seconds, but okay. So I started my career as a lawyer, and I started in Tilburg University, which is a Dutch university. And one of the highlights of my master's was international business law course, and with focus on negotiations. That was the first time I've encountered startups, VC companies, venture capital, and corporate governance. That was an amazing course led by amazing lawyer who was at that time leading counsel for Philips. He was working with startups, investing in startups from Philips, acquiring startups, spinning off startups. So that was the first departure from just being a lawyer into the entrepreneurial world, where I had a glimpse into, okay, things can be done differently. You can start something. And yeah, of course, you're going to need a lawyer, but the key thing here is that you're gonna have idea and you're gonna have the team that can bring it to life. And then you're gonna go and seek some finance and validation from the market, from customers. So that was the first seed that you know gave me the idea. Okay, this is something worth looking at. After that, I've took a franchise. Like, yeah, it's a drastic shift, but I was kind of bored of being a lawyer, and it wasn't so fun as I expected, as in the Suits series. As everybody watched it, and I decided, okay, I actually want to work with startups much more. So I had an opportunity that came to me, and I had an option to take it or to come back to the standard route of being a lawyer. The opportunity was to start a business accelerator, to take a franchise, and I actually take a leap of faith, let's say. And I spoke to my wife about it, like, hey, shall I move from career? My contract at the previous law firm came to an end, and I was thinking, okay, shall I shift my focus into startups, or maybe I can continue being a lawyer? My internal voice told me that you should take this opportunity and this adventure and make use of it. So it was a hard decision, but I never regretted it. So I started a business accelerator for startups in 2016. So that actually coincided with the bull market of that time. So there was 2 cycles before, let's say, and in 2016, all of my friends who were lawyers, all of a sudden they became crypto lawyers. So I asked, guys, what is going on here? Please tell me about it. And the term Web3 didn't exist yet. It was only crypto. You only had Bitcoin. You didn't have stable coins yet, etc. And they told me, and I started learning, and then I started buying. I started to trade. It didn't go well, so I decided that I gotta be more like a holder and buying throughout the time. And I think this is the best strategy. Being in crypto almost 10 years now, I can say this is the best strategy to buy and hold. But yeah, that was the start of me working with Web3. Yeah.
So I've got a handful of questions for you, and I think because of the delay, it might be kind of a challenge for me to hit with some of the shorter one-off ones. But let me do my best anyway. Maybe I'll ask you kind of a couple at once. I'd love if you talk a little bit about what was positive, about being a lawyer, because you didn't love the experience and you kind of ended up going into a different direction. And then you also talked about going in, starting an accelerator and having an opportunity to start an accelerator, which is it's a pretty big undertaking. There's a lot of elements. I mean, if you're going to accelerate startups, you have to know a lot of detail about people and process and business ownerships. And I would love if you could kind of talk about those two perspectives. And I'm also seeing you head shake and nod kind of at what I'm saying. So I'm wondering if maybe our delay just kind of came back around full looped.
No, I think the delay is actually less. But yeah. What I liked and what I didn't like about being a lawyer, I don't know. It's hard to say. I didn't like micromanagement. I had some signs like I was always tired, even though the schedule wasn't that tough. In the Netherlands, you have quite good work-life balance, and you usually work until like 6 p.m. And you don't work late. But still, I was draining. My energy was draining, so it kind of felt weird. So that was the first sign, let's say, that I needed to shift. And then I was thinking about it. I was checking, okay, what I'm reading, what I'm interested about. I check my Instagram, what is it about? I check my YouTube feed, what is it about? And it was more about innovation and startups. So it gave me the idea, okay, yeah, I'm actually interested more in this thing rather than being a lawyer. So that was the way of thinking. But you made a good point that in order to start a business accelerator, you have to know a lot of things. And I did as all entrepreneurs are doing. I was learning on the go. So I took a franchise of the accelerator, and primarily at that point it was work of being an administrative person, where I would need to pull together different people. I wasn't like mentoring startups or something. I was more like on operations side, organizing everybody, inviting mentors who are much more knowledgeable than myself, putting together events, hackathons, etc. So that was something that everybody can do. Right, if you can manage your tasks in Notion or somewhere, probably you're gonna manage, to do an event, a small event, then you do a bigger event, then you go to hackathon and you say, okay, this is how it's done, and then you copy paste it, and you just do it yourself, and then you speak to mentor, and he tells you some things about I don't know, a few books that he recommends to read, like I don't know, From Zero to One or A Lean Startup. And then you read the book, and then okay, now I get it. And then gradually you build up your knowledge while you speaking to people, while you're reading the books, while you see startups failing. You talk to founders, like why do they fail? You see like they didn't figure out internally who's doing what. They wasn't focused. They didn't get money. They didn't have customers. They didn't speak to customers. They didn't know what customers want. And then you kind of think, okay, but this was already solved probably. Oh yeah, there is a methodology about it, how to speak to customers. It's called customer development. So you read a book about customer development, and this is that's how you learn on the go.
Not everybody, most people don't have everything they need all the time, and it's like the real skill is, can you get what you need? Can you figure out how to make it happen? I mean, that's entrepreneurship in a little bit, a piece of it at least. So I would love if you could elaborate a little bit. You said you were working with a franchise. Could you talk a little bit about what the franchise was, how that came to be? Because I think of franchise from the restaurant world, because I worked in franchise restaurant operations, but I know that franchise operations can vary. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, that's actually franchise is a very good model for starting a business if you never been an entrepreneur yourself. So the idea here is similar to what you mentioned, in the restaurant business, is that you've given a white paper or a guide with what to do, and then actually we had similar accelerators in different countries. So I was also learning from other people doing the same stuff in other countries, and we had a head office in The Hague, who gave the guidelines, who made the 1 year long program, and you kind of follow the guidelines of the program, and you have somebody to ask some questions. If something goes wrong, you go to the person. They also provide you some like tech stuff, like how do you do accounting. You should use QuickBooks, for example, right? And this is how you use QuickBooks, and et cetera, et cetera. So I think in these terms, it's an amazing way to start a business, where you get a lot of support, where you get a lot of guidance, and of course you don't have the full ownership. But usually, as an entrepreneur, as a first-time entrepreneur, you don't need full ownership. You need a lot of support, in order to save some money, in order not to break things that are easy mistakes, let's say. So I would definitely recommend people watching or taking a look at the franchise model. They now exist. There's a lot of franchises on different businesses. So that's a good way.
I agree. I think
start.
when you're in a franchise system, you're relying on other people's having walked the path. And it's not just having walked the path like in the startup world, like, oh, I did a startup before. Somebody literally did the business, like with Domino's, Dominic or for Tom Monahan and those folks, they did the business before they franchised it. So they knew what worked and what didn't. And then when you go in as a franchisee, there's all the systems are created for marketing. There's all the systems created for people development. There's all the systems created for supply chain and managing, food and resources for cost of goods. And those are their own independent domains of knowledge that have tremendous depth, just like Web3, just like people development, just like marketing, sales. Like, you can know a little bit of sales, but to know sales theory at a way that you can build companies around it requires a ton of depth. So it's such a nice thing, especially for new business owners or for people that are thinking about entrepreneurship, to be able to explore, I think, the franchise world a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. Now you have even the whole fairs dedicated to franchise, and you have 100 businesses, offering franchises, and you can go and check their stands and ask them, hey, what is it about? I like sports, or maybe I like food, or maybe I like I don't know, startups, right? And you can actually choose. So this is a very feasible way.
Once the processes are created, it becomes, are you willing to put in the work? Do you have a base level knowledge to be successful as an entrepreneur? But then here's the systems, here's the way you have to walk. Are you willing to do your part, control what you can? And that this franchise system is good for that. I'd love if we could transition. Go ahead if you had another point, but I'd love if we can transition.
No, go ahead.
You mentioned an inner voice when you were making a decision around whether to take the risk and start an accelerator. I do my best to follow my inner voice. And I would love if you can just kind of talk about what that is for you. I mean, you don't have to go into any more depth than you're comfortable, but how that has been important to you in your entrepreneurial journey.
Yeah. That's a very good question and a very important point for everybody, for myself personally. And a lot of people are saying that, I don't know about my the reason why I'm here on this planet, or what should I do, or why should I not? Why should I join this business or that business, or this work or that work? What kind of values do I have? It's hard to formulate, but it's only hard to formulate until you listen to yourself. Actually, I think everybody already knows the answer. The answer already exists inside, and it's kind of easy and hard at the same time. So easy in a way that you kind of know it, but you have to listen carefully, and you have to kind of look. I was looking at small things. I'm still in the process, but what I'm doing is I'm looking at small things that give me like joy. Like, do I like talking to this person or not? Do I enjoy having conversations about this topic or not? Maybe I'm talking a little bit more when I'm talking about startups, or maybe I talk a little bit more about science fiction books rather than accounting, right? So these are small indications, like where your inner voice is actually pushing you. So these small things outside of work, outside of like your setup, that kind of help you to understand what do you actually like. And some practices like meditation. I've been meditating for more than 10 years. I've started with an app called Headspace. I had a lot of anxiety, and at that point, I was alert that it was 2014. The app was already there. and I started using it like 5-10 minutes a day. It helped me tremendously over the like 1 or 2 months. And I've been on and off, but recently during the last year, I went to a silent retreat, which is called Vipassana. That is where you actually go for 10 days for a silent retreat and for 8 hours with pauses, of course, for food, for just walking in the park. You do meditation, and it kind of helps to quiet down the chatter that is usually is not telling you any good. To be honest, I've never heard somebody saying, "Hey, I have internal voice. It's telling me like all these good things. You're amazing. You can do it. Everything gonna be fine. You're doing such a great thing. You done well today." No, usually it's something like not so nice, right? Like, why did I say that? Maybe I could have done better. What did that person thought about me? I don't know. Maybe they didn't like me or something. And kind of, you have to change that voice, otherwise it's not gonna work out, I think. And meditation helped me a lot.
I could listen to you going through positive affirmations all day, but changing that. I too struggled a lot with anxiety and negative self-talk, and I still can fall back into it if I don't take the time to have good self-care and a place for some type of meditation or reflective thought. Or it's just, life's hard, and being in that good headspace where you're having good productive thoughts is really important.
Yeah, no, it's so important. I think it's number one thing for me right now that helps me to push forward. And to be honest, we never know what other person thinks, and we in 99% for some reason think that people think better of us, but it's just our thought about other person's thoughts, right? And we can actually choose, right? I can think like, hey, Zach thinks I'm a strange guy, but I can also think, hey, Zach thinks I'm an amazing guy. I would like to choose, the latter, and it will help.
The latter
me.
is
So
true.
That's the way.
I do think you're an amazing guy. We're getting close to our transition to Web3. I have two more topics I want to touch on. After you talked about your little tangents, I want to touch on. After you talked about your inner voice, or around when you were talking about your inner voice related to your decision making, you also talked about having a conversation about it with your wife. And I think in entrepreneurship, so often entrepreneurs are kind of more at an extreme in terms of work-life balance. Talk to me a little bit about having a family and a wife, and balancing doing so much like you do and have done, with the importance of home life and the importance of the things that you do in that domain.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you for asking. I'm a total family guy. I have two kids, 8 and 5, and yeah, I love my family. That's my priority. If I choose to go out with boys or stay with my family, 70% of time I stay with my family, and I do that. The support of my wife, it was a tremendous backbone for myself, for my journey. I was lucky to choose the person who is understanding. Maybe one of the reasons is that we didn't get married like in a very young age, so we kind of already understood what we want from life, etc. And that was our idea, that we would like to have a partner who is supportive, who is a little bit adventurous, etc. And having this similar mindsets, it helped us, because when she was having bad moments or hard moments, like she was looking for a job, or like for half a year and sending dozens of emails, I was there to support her. And the same with me when I was changing my life from being a lawyer, which is kind of a good way, probably being a partner at a law firm after like 7-10 years can bring you a lot of wealth in many cases. But she still supported me, because I wouldn't be myself. I wouldn't be happy. She saw me, drained, and she was the first who noticed that, and she pointed out to me like, "Hey, like you have no energy at all, man. You have to recharge, but it's not sustainable." So, I couldn't emphasize more.
Number one recharge technique, other than family, which is kind of what I'm guessing you're going to
say. With family, like power
Yeah,
nap. I like naps, but number one recharge is sports. So I do some sports. I did a lot of different sports. I like trying different stuff. I did running. I ran a full marathon in Amsterdam. I did some triathlon. I did some gym. I did some jiu-jitsu recently. I did surfing, etc. So keep moving. So that actually gives me a lot of energy, but also because I'm more an introvert person, so it just helps me to read a book. So if I stay home for some one of the evenings, and then I just read a book, I like science fiction. Great book, Hail Mary. They're gonna have a movie coming out on this book. So it just gives me a lot of that's the way how I replenish my energy. So that's sports and just reading a book.
Fantastic.
Nothing fancy.
Okay. You're doing a podcast on people that are switching careers, and I think that it's applicable because you have switched careers. Can you tell me about what the switching meant for you, and like what you maybe see in other, or what maybe you want to explore with the podcast, or what you think you see in folks? I think it's an interesting idea that you're exploring.
Yeah. Thank you. And I think we're doing a little bit of similar things. What you mentioned is that you would like to support people in transitioning who are kind of lost their job, or maybe they consider switching jobs. I've been there myself, and I'm curious about other people's journeys, and I would like to bring them up, to have them surface, and just give some pep talk sometimes for people who are unconfident. I'm not interviewing some Elon Musk's of the world, so people can relate to regular people, switching careers, switching jobs, making decisions, and maybe it can support them a little bit in a very, very gentle way.
What was the hardest part of switching for you? And if you were talking directly to somebody that was thinking about making a career transition, what would you recommend?
Yeah. I think the hardest thing is uncertainty. So there is a lot of uncertainty, and I still have a lot of uncertainty in my life. And that's the hardest thing to handle. And only practices that bring you to this current moment can help, I think, because all of the anxiety is about future, right? But future didn't come yet. You're just speaking, two of us, and that's the thing that I'm thinking about. When I'm walking, I'm trying to feel the feet. When I'm eating, I'm trying to feel the food, and just moment by moment, bringing the attention from future or from past, that actually helps me to reduce anxiety and feeling bad or uncertain. But of course, sometimes it comes back. It's like waves, it comes back, and then oh man, what am I doing? I'm doing this business. I not even gonna know if it's gonna work out or not, if this investment will work out or not. I didn't make millions yet. What I have to do. But some people. Well, I'm fine with it. Let's say it's hard, but if you think it's inevitable that we're gonna have a lot of changes in our lives, and we have to be kind of understanding that change will happen, and we have to embrace it. And maybe we actually need to kind of force it sometimes. So this thing with change is the hardest thing.
Yeah, change. People don't like change. People don't like change.
No, me neither. Me neither.
And on that note, let's change topics and go into. Thank you for sharing all that that information about your journey and your perspectives on entrepreneurship and the things that have been important to you. I really appreciate it, and I know a lot of other folks will as well. Now we're going to transition over to learn a little bit more from somebody that's leading in the industry, especially in the startup space, related to the world of Web3. And what I hope to kind of discover in the second half of our conversation here is a little bit about what the small and medium business world may expect from Web3 in terms of impacting their space.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I think that Web3 and SMBs, they kind of exist a little bit on a different planets. But that's normal with emerging technologies.
It's almost always the case, right, with emerging
That
technologies, is the small and medium businesses don't have as much capital or knowledge to execute. So it's riskier to execute with new technologies. So they kind of have to wait for hard, flushed out, reliable solutions or applications to make it downstream. Is that fair?
Yeah, exactly. And I think that was the case for all technologies, and how it usually worked is that it went from the top down. So usually the first technologies were available to bigger institutions, universities, military, right, government, etc. And then gradually it went to bigger corporations who kind of had all the resources to experiment. And then it went down to regular people. So that is the usual flow of the technology. What is interesting about Web3 is it goes vice versa. It goes bottom up. You have a lot of people who are who've been like, Web3 is a definitely decentralized and bottom up thing, although it's changing now a little bit. But it's emerged as a thing of people who would like to go away from traditional institutions and have something on their own. And gradually, when the technology is maturing, you have bigger institutions kind of adopting it already. You have even governments adopting it, and SMBs are probably the last to implement it sometimes. But I think this is already happening. I see a lot of SMBs already using like crypto payments. We have technology for that. This is the first use. But also things like loyalty programs that could be improved. I think a lot of companies have experimented that. So I think loyalty could be changed. I think culture. I think this, in many cases, unemphasized, but Web3 is built around some specific culture. Some call it Djinn culture, right? And I think SMBs need to embrace that, right? We have new generations that are quite different, that are they like flashy stuff. They like some new stuff. They like experimenting with technologies. They like owning stuff, where actually blockchain helps a lot, right? With collectibles, with NFTs, with tokens, with memes, with meme tokens. So this culture, I think, can help a lot SMBs by if SMBs will be skeptical of the culture of Web3, it can actually help a lot to bring these clients, these new younger generation clients into the business. So we always talk about technology, but I think we rarely talk about what kind of culture and attitude Web3 brings and how SMBs can benefit. So I think that's definitely a topic that SMBs should look at, and there is a lot of ways how they can benefit from being involved into the Web3 community and crypto communities.
Very cool. I hadn't even considered. I mean, obviously, it's true. The crypto payments for small businesses, and you're starting to see that more regularly. What are some of the other applications of the technology do you anticipate seeing over the next, 2 to 10 years as it becomes more flushed out?
I think like blockchain is essentially a backbone that is usually an infrastructure technology. So I don't expect, of course, you have some flashy outwards parts of it, like NFTs, etc. But by default, it's a thing that brings infrastructure, right? That brings unbreakable ledgers. So that's why I think most of it going to be focused on finance. So finance is the best thing where blockchain excels, and it was invented for it, right? Let's be clear about it. Like Bitcoin was invented as a store of value, as a way to make payments, to make transactions without any intermediary, etc. Now we are trying to explore different options. But this is the main thing, and it takes a lot of time to implement, right? Like, let's think about self-driving cars. I think the first one was presented in Silicon Valley, like in 2014. Still, after 12 years, we don't see them going everywhere. Like, of course, you have, especially in the US, you have, a few cities where you already have them, but it's not everywhere. And in Europe, you rarely see a self-driving car. So it takes a lot of time to build that. So I think that's about infrastructure, that's about loyalty, and that's about culture. So those are three pillars that are going to be thriving for SMBs and just in general for Web3 in the future. That's my point. Maybe one small thing that I really like nowadays with Web3 is social. Like how Web3 is changing social dynamics. For example, you have Kaito, you have Yaps, which actually pays you for bringing clients and bringing attention to something, right? And SMBs can make use of that. Like if there is somebody who is paying attention, who is bringing clients to your company, bringing eyeballs to your companies on Twitter, Kaito will pay you for that company. So that's a new, like, let's say, marketing model that is emerging in Web3. It's very efficient, I would say.
Fantastic. I want to give you a couple of my thoughts and see. I want you to tell me if I'm crazy or not. So you talked about Web3 primarily being created from a transaction and financial perspective, and I do know that. But the thing that I see extremely valuable about the blockchain technology and Web3 technology is that it creates some level of certainty as to what's happened, and in two different spaces. One in politics, government, and history. Boy, do we want accountability and certainty. And then another place that I've seen we really want accountability and certainty is in governance or people management. So I'm thinking internally about the value of having multiple nodes sign off and agree on something that happened, And then I'm taking that as a infrastructure, like you said, because it is. And I think about applying it to things that we have major major fucking issues with right now, which is transparency and honesty with leadership. And that's, in companies across the board, small up to large corporate entities. And the same thing is true with history and government. And I love the idea, and maybe you're going to tell me that I shouldn't love this idea because it's not feasible, but I love the idea that these systems and this technology can be adapted to create certainty around things that happen within businesses and things that happen within the world of government and history. And I think doing that creates circumstances where real conversations can be had about what actually happened. Whether it be a supply chain malfunction because somebody didn't do the regular maintenance that they were supposed to, and it was clear because they didn't go through the steps to get it on the blockchain that it had happened. And maybe insurance companies look at that type of thing. Maybe startup, accelerator companies take on founders if they're able to show that they've done X, Y, and Z from a knowledge growth perspective, or from a company governance perspective, or from a cybersecurity perspective, and being able to sign off on a blockchain like technology increases security and risk and investment and that type of thing. And then same thing on the government side. Like, I'm not trying to get into a right versus left or any type of, but the factuality and the concrete element of history is so important for humanity building on what we've experienced and going forward. So like when I'm sitting my armchair Web3, seat where I don't actually know anything and I just I'm kind of looking from zoomed out, I think that those are potential applications. And I don't know if it's, historical records that can be used for small and medium businesses, and there's apps and it's easier. Maybe not, because of how much power some of this blockchain technology takes. I don't know if we're going to start putting, government caucuses onto the blockchain so that we could go back in 10 years and say, well, political person this did and said this, and now they're this and saying that. Let's have a conversation about it. And so that's me spinning my crazy yarn. You tell me if I'm off base, and I know we're short on time as well.
Yeah. No, I think this is totally feasible. It's about finding teams who are very passionate about it and who would like to make it happen. And this technology, of course, it can definitely help with that. Another application that I see is the traceability of AI and all the content that is being generated. So nowadays, I think we have a lot of issues with that. I think about 70% of the internet is already flooded with generated AI and videos. Like videos is coming up quickly, is catching up quickly. So that's another way how to mark some pieces of content as being created by this and this entity, which cannot be deleted or somehow changed. So these things definitely I see coming. Another thing related to that that could be also helpful for SMBs that are mostly working online is identification. So there's incredible technology called zero knowledge, right? So which is used in cryptography that allows you to confirm something without revealing the actual information, right? Which helps you to confirm that I'm above 18 without me actually sharing the data and the company owing the data, etc. So this is already being used by some bigger companies. I know that there is already a pilot by Google who is providing zero knowledge ZK IDs in Android wallets. So it is already happening on quite a big scale, and I think it will help to avoid bots and all these agentic entities that will exist in the coming years, and people will hardly know if this is a person talking or this is a generative AI agent talking. So in this way, cryptography and blockchain can also help a lot. So that's another thing that is also going to be used by SMBs, but not specifically by SMBs, but in general. So these things are definitely where blockchain can succeed, apart from this classical functions that it does.
Very cool. Dima, thank you so much for joining us, sharing your story with us, sharing your knowledge with us. I'd love if you could take a moment and just what types of people should reach out to you, and if you want that type of thing, how to do it. And then we'll go ahead and go back to our Tuesday. And thank you for spending some time at the back end of your day. This was fantastic.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Zach. I would like to reach out or people who are switchers, who changed their careers, who had major changes, who had through big changes in their careers, some drastic changes. I know people who changed from being a lawyer to playing musical instruments, etc. And it's very interesting to understand how people make these transitions. And I would like to surface that and help people get inspired by your experiences. So you can reach out to me if you're also building a seed stage startup. You can also reach out to me. Would be happy to check your ideas. And thank you so much, Zach, for inviting me and having these conversations. I think it matters a lot.
This was a blast. Thank you. All right. Bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Cheers.